Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. How are you? It's In a Lonely Place with Matt Pinfield. The name that was because literally myself. I'm here in Hollywood, hanging out in my living room. I love doing this show. It's so much fun for me. And it's also the way I stay in touch with my friends who work in music, people that I love. And we're doing this because of Music Cares. The thing is to raise money for Music Cares to help out all the musicians that are out of work, everybody that goes from literally the assistants that help book tours, to the merch people that are going to have anything to do for a while, to the, literally the guitar techs. I do this with Kerry Brown, Linda Perry, and everybody that's involved with We Are Here. I love doing this show. I was In a Lonely Place was a song by the Smithereens, and it was also a Humphrey Bogart movie. And I just thought about it because I was literally looking at my gold record of the Smithereens album one day. And I said, wow. The thing that's amazing, though, is I just want to tell you, if you can make a donation, that's fine. If you cannot, we just want to keep your head in a good place, because mental health is so very dangerous in times like these. I mean, it's, we're trying to all stay very positive, and that's what we have to do because our loved ones depend on us. Our loved ones, our friends, and that, for me, that's the most important thing. I have two daughters, my mother's elderly, man. I just, they mean everything to me. What do you think keeps me sane? It's the music. So the idea of doing the show is just, this is the thing that gets me through. I asked one of my great friends to be on today. He's a guy I love. We hang out all the time. We literally, like, when we weren't self-quarantined, seriously, I mean, 2 or 3 times a week, we're out. We're going out to eat. We're hanging out with our friends, musicians. He's literally he's the most famous and he's the longest celebrated mastering guy doing record mastering, in the industry. How he has mastered everything from Grandmaster Flash and all the early Def Jam hip hop, which is crazy because, like when other people were like, thought hip hop was passing fade. Howie was like, no, I'll do it, which is great. Plus some of the greatest rock records ever. But he's still, I got to be honest with you, I mean, tons of his songs are on the charts. And he also did the Gary Clark Jr. album, which won a ton of Grammys. Never not working. And he's one of my favorite people in the world. And in the Bronx, so up in the Bronx, you got Howie, you got the Yankees, and we're both East Coast guys living out here. And it's kind of odd that we're not together doing something, but we're doing it here. So I want to introduce you to Howie Weinberg, one of the greatest record mastering guys, master of record mastering. Howie, what's up, buddy? Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. And for a guy from Jersey, you're pretty cool,
Yeah. It's funny.
We love New Jersey, Jersey, as we call it, on the other side, the bridge and tunnel place. But Matt, you're a legend, and I can't thank you enough for getting me on here. Okay, we're spreading the message here with Music Cares. This is a big deal here, and we're right now we're guys who can make a difference, and we're doing it, and I love it, man. I really do.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's funny. I where you're sitting, I have been in your house, right up, it's in Laurel Canyon, the legendary Laurel Canyon. I love your place because you go all the way up the hill. It's this great house, and then you put your mastering studio is literally in your house on the top floor. But I've never. Here's the thing. I have a lot. This is not all my gold and platinum records. But I've never seen anyone with more gold and platinum records than you, and you deserve them because you mastered all of these classics. Like we're saying, Rancid, I have a gold, you have a platinum.
I got the platinum version of that, by the way.
Yeah, but I mean, what I want, people are really fascinated by you. I remember when you and I were at Chris Cornell, like Memorial thing, and you finally met Matt Cameron, who basically, said, "Oh, Howie," because you worked on all the records. He goes, "You and a guy loves it loud." Like people love. I thought that was really, really cool. But I think the thing that really amazes me is you never stop working because you never go out of style because your talent and mastering is so incredible. Can you tell me about how you started, Howie?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I was looking for a job, and I got the job as the first messenger at Masterdisc, which my boss was the great Bob Ludwig, and he took me under his wing. After like eating shit for a year, basically delivering packages all over New York, and I knew where all the labels were, and it was great because I could get freebies and all that stuff. They finally took me out of the mailroom, and made me a copy boy, which in the old days, before there was no digital, they made me making tape copies. And, the studio we were at, we were making tape copies pretty much for, it was considered Mercury Records, Polygram. So any record that was distributed through was called phonogram. Phonogram, Polygram, Rod Stewart, Bee Gees, all of those records. If there was a domestic release, no matter where they mastered it around America, I would get a tape copy of it and duplicate it, make like 10, everything there was reel-to-reel tape. So everything went one at a time. So I'd be all night long making tape duplicates. Like I was a tape guy. You have to start as a tape guy. And I remember one of my first gigs, they handed me this record. It was mastered somewhere in the West Coast. They handed me 2 tapes, and you know what it said? Saturday Night Fever. So I was the first guy ever outside of probably the studio to ever hear Saturday Night Fever. Feeling Night Fever,
Yeah, right.
I knew it would be a hit.
That's great. So that was the first record. Well, you were doing duping that at that point.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about when you work with Bob Ludwig, legend. Like there's so many. Him, Ted Jensen, you, like the names that are classics. But so tell me, when did you make the transition from being a tape boy to the actual mastering?
Well, basically, one of the engineers got fired, and I had no skills. I could barely deliver a package, let alone air. But I knew I had some kind of ear, and I was special. I couldn't figure out what. So one of the guys, the engineers, got fired, and they said, "Okay, here's you want his studio?" I go, "Yeah, that's me." I walked in. I didn't know jack shit about anything. Those days was all, it was all disc cutting and it was an older studio, but whatever it is. I went in and I faked it for 6 months. I didn't know what I was doing. I was hitting knobs. I had no idea, but I got the bug, and it was like, and even in those days, I was like, even though I was making mistakes, I was working really hard. I was fixing them, and I got the bug, and it was pretty crazy because in those days everything was tape, vinyl, and that's it. Maybe a cassette tape here and there, and so I kind of learned the hard way. Basically, the school of hard knocks. You learn as you go. Not like today where you learn and you go to a fancy school for 4 or 5 years. I learned on the job, which is great.
Which is amazing. So, what was the first record that you mastered? What was the first one? Because I know which one. So I wanted to ask.
I'm gonna laugh at this one because the second I walked in the studio, there were hits were showing up like one after another. And the first record, nobody, okay, they called the studio up and somebody was like, "Who wants to work on something called rap music?" And none of the older guy goes, "I ain't going near that." I go, "Yeah, me right here, I got it." So the first it was called Christmas Rapping by Curtis Blow. Okay, and that was a gold. I think it was pretty much not gold, but one of the biggest. I think it was the second or third top, newest rap records. The hip hop wasn't even a term then. Put out, and that was managed by and Curtis was managed by Russell Simmons, who also went on to we did so
well. Yes. You did all that Def Jam stuff, which was cool. I love the fact that you.
I was almost on staff with them, other than they didn't pay me. Basically, they sent me every project because who do you send it? I was just the guy. And after a while, I developed this, this swagger of the Def Jam, Rick Rubin, Beastie Boys shit. So it was pretty cool. I got to admit, and just to reiterate, I lived downtown, right? Exactly where all the records were made. Rick lived down the block. Russell lived there. I was like one of the boys, put it that way. But that was like later on.
It blows me away now that you did those records. One of my favorite records of all time that I think changed rap and hip hop was Grandmaster Flash, The Message, which you worked on.
Yeah.
I've looked on your walls. You got all the Curtis Blow, the breaks, all that stuff. But talk to me about working on The Message, because that changed everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Are you kidding me? That was after I did the breaks, and the breaks to this day was the first gold 12-inch record, by the way.
Yeah.
12-inch record that was gold. Can you imagine that? A 12-inch record selling like almost 700,000 records. So then I was basically the guy. the god, the guy in New York, the guy in
so all those guys, Sugar Hill, everybody would go to you.
They all called me up, all of them, and I bring, man, I love this stuff, man. I kind of had a kin with these soul, a lot of the brothers, I grew up in the Bronx, so it's not like I'm some kid from in the mid, I kind of was one of them. We spoke the same language. And, basically a lot of those records in the old days, they sounded good too. They were really well made. And the Flash, I loved him. Joe Sadler was his name. And then,
and Mel was so great.
Yeah.
That record, I got turned on to by Killing Joke, the band. And they played it for me. I was like, they played a show in New Jersey at City Gardens. John Stewart's the bartender. I go upstairs with them after. They got a bottle of Jack Daniels. We're hitting the Jack Daniels. All of a sudden, Jazz Coleman and Jordy, the guys from the Killing Joke, who are just like, it's extremely aggressive, cool band, are like, they say to me, you got to hear this. They got a boombox, and they play me the message. And I went, holy shit. And I literally went back to New Brunswick, New Jersey, and bought that 12-inch the next day and played it like 1,000 times because it was socially conscious music. It was amazing.
It was also, that record was in response to the transit strike. There was a transit strike that year. And basically it was just, it was not like a boasting record. Like before that everything was like, this and that. And I got my big gold chain. This was really a message, it was like a public service announcement in a song, and it was delivered like nothing nobody's ever heard before. And the beats and the rhymes and the rapping was just nothing nobody's even touched that yet, to this day.
In fact, there were like those 4 singles in a row I loved so much by Grandmaster Flash. That, then Message to Survival, then New York, Big City of Dreams, whichever it is, and then White Lines. Don't do it.
I did that. White Lines. Don't do it. That was a big drug pump, That was really when crack was. That was a big anti-drug record too.
Yeah,
fantastic message. Yeah,
I love that. So you were doing that stuff for Russell, for Rick Rubin. You were doing all that stuff.
Well, let me make one thing clear. Those guys, Rick was still in when all those hip hop. Rick was still in college, living in his dorm before Def Jam even started. Russell was managing Curtis Blow, and that was it. And he had a little brother named Joey Simmons, which we found out was Run from Run DMC. And basically they got the bug too, and they had somehow gotten together and started a label. And there I was right in the middle of it with the first release. And you know what the first release was, right?
Yeah, was it Public Enemy? Was it
no, Beastie Boys.
Oh, Beastie Boys. Oh, it was was it the very first single? Oh, you the album, License to Ill. But
no, right before License to Ill, there was a single. You would know that.
Oh, was it Rock Hard? Or was it
we got to look this up. But
now, all right, I'll think about it. There's Rock Hard, because before it was Cookie Puss, right?
No, I think it was Cookie Puss.
Yeah.
Possibly. And don't forget, I lived around the corner from Yauk, Adam Horowitz and Mike D. They all lived on the Lower East Side on Christie Street, and I lived not that far away. So we'd see each other all the time, and it was one happy family, so to speak.
Yeah. But I love those guys. I miss Yauk every day, man. He was such
I love Yauk. He was a great guy.
Cool guy. Before he died, man, I did all those album specials. You worked on the records, but for me, they would call me and did do the album specials. And I'll never forget seeing Yauk on the street. Tell him, I got a new morning show, man. I saw my house. He goes, hey, man, you want me to come up tomorrow? I asked him, hey, man, you want to come up and be a guest? He goes, yeah, man, tomorrow? He's like the best. He was like literally just walking down the street, becomes a I love it, But so tell me about those. So with the Beastie, so you were doing 12 inches. So you were the guy who was literally doing all that great Def Jam stuff. So
well, what happened was basically, it's like anything else when you start out, I'm the guy, I'm the guy who does what they call, I do the plates, I'm the guy, he's the guy who does the plates. And, after a while, like anything else, it's like a domino, one after another. And each one of these records, especially all the Def Jams, stuff, and I did all the Tommy Boy stuff and the Profile Records and every other one. You know, the
Right.
what was a record label from Philly too?
There was.
They had. I can't remember. We got to figure this out, but they had that big club down there. What was the one? But the Fever. Saturday, you know, the Fever. You know that.
Yeah,
the big, after
I remember who was on that. Was that
Records too?
Love Bug Starsky, right? It was like
well, that's too. Yeah, we got all that, but you know, this was 30 years ago, man. I mean, what 80? No, almost 35 years ago. You know, it's like. You know, I take a lot of supplements. I try to remember this shit, but there was a bunch of really cool labels, and that was even pre-Def Jam. And this was Def Jam really came about because, you know, it was Rick Rubin's, basically it's his passion to start a label. And he started the label while he was in his dorm at NYU. And I lived down the block from them. And Rick used to show up at my house all the time because we did some records together beforehand. And I had this big ass loft downtown, and I had a big system there, and he would come over and listen to records, and nobody knew who anybody was, and we were just kind of cool little cats, you know, like he was a neighborhood guy, and he seemed pretty cool, you know, whatever, you know. And years later he said to me, he goes, you know, you were like the one guy who was really nice to me when nobody else would even give me the time of day, and I went, that's what I do.
That's great. And you worked on all those records, which is so great. And you know, so all that Def Jam stuff. I mean, you're, like I said, right behind you. People can see it. You have more, like I said, more gold and platinum records than anybody else.
Well, don't forget, at the time, Def Jam was really the first, like one of the first labels. People would buy the name. Whatever, any product that had the Def Jam recordings on it, you knew it was going to be a dope ass product. You know, it become Public Enemy, Slick Rick, and Third Base, all of these, you know, every one of those records, and to this day, LL Cool J. I mean, it was a phenomenal run that I don't think anybody's ever seen before in that genre. Not Motown, but it's different, you know.
You know, it's and you did them all, like everything from like Little Rock the Bells to. You know, Mama Said Knock You Out. Yeah. You did them all, and that's so great. Mama Said Knock You Out is one of my favorite songs. I mean, I just love that.
Well, yeah, that was another one. And I worked with James Todd Smith and LL Cool J, you know, and that just Mama, when that came out, that really, I mean, he still had some platinum records before that, and he had some pretty big hits, but this one was like, you know, it's that it's that one that pushes you over the edge. That was the groundbreaking best album of the year on every charts, you know, hit singles, you know, and I was there, you know, I remember those sessions, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing. Tell me about that now. As we talk about you were the first guy, because obviously the rest of the older guys are like, that rap stuff's a phase, that hit me, whatever, before it was called hip hop. Obviously we found out how important all those great artists were in records. Did everybody come in when you were mastering them? Or
yeah, everybody showed up, you know, everybody showed up. And sometimes a little too many people would show up. There would be guys there, you'd run DMC, you know, when I did all those records, they had all you know, the so-called posse, man, they took this to another level. Because the studio I was working in, basically we were just, you know, if you come in, we'd buy you lunch, you know, free lunch in the studio. So yeah, so they bring the A&R girl, their friends, this other friends. It got a little out of hand a couple of times, but you know, that gave me my start, man. I could handle a room full of crazy guys and be one of them and show them the action, you know. And at the time, I had a gigantic speaker system with 25-inch subwoofers, big Outtake 15s, you know, ribbon tweed. I mean, I had a system that, and you turn it up, man, the earth fucking moved, and everybody in the whole studio complex, man, Howie's got to turn that shit down, but we were rocking out, man. We had so much fun.
King of Rock and all those rock boxes.
Oh yeah, forget it. And you know those things. They got to have the bottom. They got to have. But let me explain. Those recordings in those days, they were fantastic. You know, that was the day before digital and computers. Everything was big fat analog tape. You know, quarter inch or half inch. You know, big sound. And you can hear it today. You put those records on against what you got coming out today, and man, there's something there that you just don't get today. Well, you get it today, but you got to pay a lot.
Yeah, right. Funny, it's
vintage equipment.
Even when you and I are like, where you're sitting right now, you and I were listening to things you were mastering, whether it was Vampire Weekend or Swimmers, because I come over a lot. We hang out, and like even that's loud by your computer, but your room upstairs, the mastering room was like I said, you are known as being the loud guy, which I love.
It's a vibe, and look, I still to this day, my ears are perfect only because I may listen loud, but it's all very tame listening. It's spurts. It's not like I'm going to a live concert where I hear ringing or it's a vibey thing, and you got to feel it. This is music, man. You got to feel it. If you're not feeling it, you're not getting it. That's for me, anyway.
I agree with you. I mean, the thing is, you have so many records that I love, hip hop world to the rock world. People don't know you worked with the Clash on Combat Rock.
Well, it was a whole, and I got it right after they did Satanista. I worked on a little of that, but that was a little bit. That was kind of when they were kind of getting out of London and they ventured to New York. And the Combat Rock sessions were all done at Electric Lady with my buddy Joe Blaney, and they were in New York for a while. And this was in early '80s when New York had the graffiti and the Futura 2000. All the graffiti artists were graffitiing all over it. This is when New York was a cool place, I gotta say.
Yeah. And I agree. It was the best then. And it was actually cool through the '90s and early.
Yeah, but the early '80s, everything was fresh and new. There was so many clubs after hours, man. You could party day and night all through the. It was so much fun. I can't even tell you how much fun it was in that day. And I was a young kid, so I went with the flow.
Yeah, of course. And I know.
And with the artists,
Yeah, I love that shit when we go out all night in New York back when we were younger. I mean, we're going from one club to another and absolutely mad all down Lower East. Actually, it was ever Lower East Side. But so tell me about your relationship working on the Clash. Did Joe Strummer or Mick Jones show up for the master?
No, Joe didn't do, but Mick Jones did. Joe was always a quiet guy. He left all the tech stuff to the tech people. Joe and Joe Blaney, who was actually was the chief engineer on that record, showed up to the sessions, and I remember very clearly they worked on this record for a long time, and this was a record that was one of the most anticipated. I mean, imagine in the mid '80s, '84, I think. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, but it was around that time, '83, '84.
Yeah. This was, right. Yeah, they had two incredible records before that, and they were at the top of the game. This band was like, I mean, they were the next big thing. If they weren't the big thing, they were the next biggest thing. And they came in and did this record, and they just stayed in New York, and they just did the whole New York. That's why the vibe on that record is very, very like loosey goosey New York urban. And pretty incredible stuff,
Yeah, get the rights, ghetto defendant. And of course, I remember when you mastered it, but I remember when Epic sent out these white label singles because I was a DJ, college radio and clubs of should I stay or should I go with Rock the Castle on the back of it, like 2 hits, and it had incredible on it, and I mean, what a great record, straight to hell.
Well, not only that, it was great, and they recorded all there, and then in the end. It was mixed correctly, but then Glenn Johns, who did a lot of the Stones albums, they hired him. I don't know how they got to him, but he's the guy who took these incredible sessions and these great recordings that Joe did, and he mixed the record. That is a motherfucker, okay? And that's what's out there today. I mean, this guy, I take my hat off to. He made that record. He made the sound of all those sounding. The sound of that record was that mix, but it was also taking Joe's tracks. But there's one little known fact about that record you may not know. There was a toilet bowl commercial, and one I forgot what which one the song. You would know, Matt, because there was a commercial in there, and the record was coming out. It was the hottest thing on the planet. Okay, it came out. It was selling like this is when CDs were the hotcakes. The guy from the label calls me and goes, "You're not going to believe this. The kid." It was a Tidy Bowl commercial or something, and they put that in. This is like before samples. The guy goes, the owner's kid from Tidy Bowl heard the song, and he goes, "You got to get rid of this." So they had a cease and desist on the album, like a minute. And these guys, a record label going there selling, they're like shooting, they're flying off the walls there, and some guys, oh shit. So I still remember making an edit. Making an edit, getting to slicing that Tidy Bowl shit off there, and everybody's going, whew, thank God.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I always wondered, it was crazy when the Doors on Salt Parade at the end of Touch Me, they did Stronger Than Dirt. The Ajax commercial. Like kind of funny. I guess Ajax must have thought it was cool because they gave a shit about it. But that's a great story. So and Mick Jones, right? What a great guy Mick Jones is.
Fantastic, man. What a. I mean, he was a legend, and he still is. But he's kind of a little bit more retired. But Mick was Strummer was, like I said, he was the quiet guy, but Mick was the guy out front going to parties every night, and I'd see him, we hung out, we go to the rap clubs, he was hanging out with all the graffiti artists. That's why a lot of those songs have, a lot of the graffiti artists were doing cameos in it. Futura 2000, and there was a few others, the big ones,
Yeah. Because he loved that, I mean, let's be honest. When Bernie Rhodes kicked Mick out, Mick had said, "Hey, look, I was a bit of an asshole for a while, but they never should have kicked him out." And as soon as they did, he does like "This Is England." I cut the crap, but record. I mean, nothing was as good because Mick was a guy who he was the song dude.
I know what you're getting at.
I love Joe. I mean, oh my God, I love those guys. So, and it's cool. They were heroes of mine. Saw him at the Capitol Theater in New Jersey. Saw him at Palladium.
But that was incredible.
The night that he smashed the bass that's on the cover of London Calling, because I was there, and that was fucking amazing.
But you know what happened when they threw him out? Okay, everything went quiet for a little bit. Next thing you know, this tape shows up in my house, in my studio. It says Big Audio Dynamite. Who the fuck is that? Yeah. And then I put it on, and I went, oh my God. This is like, what is this? And they went on a run about 5 records that were unbelievable. Some of the best records in the 80s, easily. That.
I loved all those albums. Remember?
I worked on almost all of them, yeah.
You worked on them, right? Yeah, man. And you know what? And it was cool because Mick wrote great lyrics like Contact and Rush and Other 99 and The Bottom.
Oh, my God. Great records, man.
I love those records, man.
But like I said, that was and there's something in the water there, maybe in the booze, I don't know. But there was something in those days, man. People, they were just these great records were just flowing they are today too, but it's just different. Maybe I'm getting older, and I'm not seeing
older, but we're still here, Howie. We're still here. That's the best news. We're rocking
better than ever, Matt. You and I, man. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely, my brother. So let's talk about some of the other records you did. Obviously, you've done so many iconic records. You literally go through your house, and it's like a museum for me. Oh my God! Because any rock, hip hop, or alternative fan would it's beautiful.
Electronic.
Let's do, because we were talking about Beasties before. Let's do that next, because this predated the next ones that are coming up. Tell me about doing License to Ill.
Oh, that was I can still to this day remember that session. Rick Rubin showed up. George Vakulias. George was Rick's. He
was the engineer. He was great.
Rick's engineer. Then the engineer showed up. Yauk, Horowitz, and
Mike D.
and Mike all showed up at the session. I can picture this right now in the studio, and these 3 punk ass kids. Rick, who's a little bit a punk ass kid, and everybody was like, "You're not going to believe this. I took the sound off of this record. I took it off." Nobody realized there was something called sampling, and Rick was under the assumption if you buy your album for $8, you own the sound, right? You own the album, you must own what the fuck is on there, right? And this is really what turned the whole industry upside down, back and forth, because nobody really would care except the Beastie Boys' License to Ill just came out. It was in one of the most iconic, that was probably the greatest debut album, I think, of the 80s. And not only that, but that's when the days CDs came out. Sales they went up to 4 or 5 million sales, just in America. I think it was almost 10 million worldwide. And could you imagine if how many samples they stole from everybody and everybody?
Yeah, you did Paul's Boutique too. You did all those. So you worked on every one of those records. Check your head. It was unreal. I mean, if you think about that, for me,
crazy. Man, I was one of the guys.
I love and Rock Hard. I remember when they had to pull Rock Hard because they sampled AC/DC. Yeah, pull it off the charts. I have one of the original 12 inch.
Well, the Beastie Boys were the original. They opened for Madonna for a while. In her first tour, one of her first tours, and But yeah, that was a great time, man. And it was like those were the days when there was excitement. And just to get back to the Beasties real quick, they got in trouble, big trouble for those samples because then they started the laws. So Paul's Boutique comes out. They leave the label. They go to Capitol, and they decide, we'll make our own samples. And that's what they did on Paul's Boutique. And that's why you put that record on it. It is so defining of like a sound that I don't think to this day has ever been touched. I don't know about you, but it's very
great because you know what it was about Paul's Boutique? They could have easily just replicated their big #1 album, License to Ill. And they were like, no, we're doing something totally different.
I remember those sections.
All those great songs, Shadrach, all that stuff, They would sample
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, so tell me, here's the interesting thing that I found about the Beasties that through working with them, and I know you probably felt the same way, they were very, very loyal. That's why they kept coming back to me to do album specials, because there was a friendship. And when Yelk was sick, I'll never forget that literally they asked Adam, hey, listen, man, we got one more. Obviously, we're going to release this last album. Adam knew he was dying. And they said, hey, man.
Very sad.
Yeah, it broke my heart. And they go, look, is it cool with you if we do this album special with Matt for the last album? He goes, yeah, man, Matt's our guy. So they came in. So Mike B and Adam, and then I'm at Sirius XM, and it was after my book was about to come out, or maybe it was out already. And I'm talking to Ad Rock, and Ad Rock's so cool. Like I said this, I think on one of the other shows, he and Kathleen Hanna were like, my daughter Jessica. They were like, I remember we're at a show, and they're like, cool, we'll watch it, we'll hang. I had to do some intros. They're just the best guys ever. But I was talking to Ad Rock, and I go, I knew he was going to be writing the book, and him and Mike D. And see, I used a co-writer, Mitchell Cohen, amazing writer, great guy. You know Mitchell because he worked at Arista, Columbia.
Yeah.
But I said to Ad Rock, I go, man, what do you think about using a co-writer? He looks at me and goes, oh man, Yelk wouldn't have had it. No. He's like, they have this thing. I swear the only thing they ever did without Yelk was that album special and then writing the book. But they didn't want they waited.
No. Yeah.
They waited. And that's the thing about them I love. They were so fucking loyal, man.
Well, not only are they loyal, they're loyal to the people that got them there. Well, some of at some point they were loyal to that. And to me, very much, I would always get hired to do another record with them, always hung with them, always had fun. That was a big thing in those days. And I mean, when but they were also loyal to a certain sound and a certain vibe, it was really, they were the cornerstone of Def Jam, even though in the end they had so many other great products on there. But
yeah, which I love. I mean, I think that's amazing, and so glad that we got to be part of their history. You especially. I mean, me. It was like I was on the promotion. Side.
But that's why you were doing radio. Were you on MTV?
No, I mean, I started doing radio. For a long time. I did stuff all the way through. Like on MTV, and then I did, album specials. I used to do album specials with everybody.
I remember.
So all the Seattle bands, everybody, but the Beasties, it was a thing because it's about trust, and it's like if people trust you, and you're not an asshole,
Yeah.
and you really love the music and care about it, they'll come back to you again. And
You're also the New York guy. You're like one of the hood. You're from the hood. You
Yeah.
can hang. It's not like you were the record guy. You were.
I was always pretty awesome. That's why we're so crazy that I ended up doing A&R and becoming VP of it, and one of the VPs of A&R Artist Development at Columbia, because you got to go out and fight for your artists, but you also have to understand that you are the person, that you're the liaison. You are the one who navigates through everything. So, every side of it, recording, mastering. But hey, Howie, I want to just say, because you have worked on some of the most iconic records of my life. All right, so you know what we're going to next? Nirvana, Nevermind.
Well, that was just basically, I forgot what year that was, but that was
91.
about after, a lot of that hip hop stuff got a little stale for me. And a lot of other guys started moving in, mastering those records. I still had my shit share of it, but
yeah,
there was alternative and punk out records. But that was in my blood. The punk and alternative is really stuff. I mean, I love the hip hop and all the rap stuff, but the alternative and the punk stuff, man, that's what that was my blood. So it just so happened I just started. The ball was rolling on those records, one after another. Sonic Youth, all the Dinosaur Jr., all that Jay Mascis, all that stuff, Yeah,
you were the guy. You were the go-to guy for
all those records, especially Sonic Youth, Chicory Youth,
Pixies Doolittle, right? I mean,
Pixies, the Doodle. I did a whole shit ton of them.
He did
Breeders,
Breeders.
What's that?
Breeders' last Flash album. I mean, your house where you're standing right now. Fucking come in. I know. It's cool. Johnny Depp was at your house, and he's walking around. He's like, "Man, this is the fucking greatest shit I've ever seen." Right? He's over there.
This guy, It was pretty funny too, because it was wow, holy damn, that's pretty. But I've actually, and this is the best part. I've actually collected all of this over the years. I moved around, from New York here and a bunch of places in New York, but this is the one thing that I've always kept. This is really my payback, so to speak.
Yeah, I love your house. I love the warmth there.
I never got paid on one single record, by the way. I never made a dime on one.
What people need to know, it wasn't like you didn't get a point. You were mastering it.
No, they paid a fee and they were done. And the studio paid me.
So, but you know what? The great news is, Howie, because you're so amazing at what you do, that you're still working. Like the Gary Clark Jr. album won 3 Grammys this year. From the band, Broken went to #1 in alternative. You did that. I mean, it just never stops. But hey, let's talk about Nirvana, Nevermind. Please,
okay. That was interesting.
Give us a story. I don't mind, about the boys and Kurt. Like,
no, it was just one. I remember that record. I did a lot of work with Butch Vig, who produced the record, and he engineered it, and Andy Wallace, who mixed it. It was like a family again. I worked with Butch all the time, Andy Wallace all the time, the Geffen records with Gary Kirsch all the time, and Gold Mountain with John Sylvan. I was the guy who did all those records.
I love. I mean, those guys.
This has been well documented, by a lot. And go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm saying, but Howie, I want a personal anecdote about hanging out with Kurt and those guys back then.
Hey, they all showed up in the studio, and they were all these punk ass kids from Seattle going, "We're in New York. What the fuck are we doing here?" It's like. We're just a punk, we're an alternative punk band. This is like big time. This is not what we wanted. It's just, we just wanted to make a cool record that, had some great songs on it and some killer riffs and everything. And that's it, and then all of a sudden they ended up in Midtown Manhattan, this fancy studio with this guy who was like, wow, just running around like, dancing with these guys. And it was great. And I think it's been documented, but the bottom line on this one was everything showed up. All the music showed up way before the band and the producers and everything. So I could sit with that record all afternoon before anybody showed up. So it was just me, a big tape in the room, and big monitors, and I'm going, this is pretty good. you know. And in the end, by the way, the record did almost 30 million. Can you imagine having your mitts on a project that 30 million hard copies were done? I mean, hard copies. We're talking
when you put the tape of "Smells Like Teen Spirit" on, I mean, did you feel? I mean, obviously, nobody could predict a seismic shift, you know, but there was something about that, the way that was recorded.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking to myself, alternative. This is not alternative. This is big ass rock, you know. Yeah. I mean, that's why they hired Andy Wallace.
Right there in fucking Sound City.
This is not alternative. This was big rock music, big drums, big guitars, clean vocals, and the way Andy Wallace he to me, I think, made that project, because I heard some of the mixes, you know, down the line before he got him, and it was like, whoa. I mean, and he was also, that was at the height of his career, and he was killing it. This guy was, I gotta say, I mean, I work with a lot of people. This guy mixed the record like nobody's business, okay? And that's why he's done so many. And that's why in that time and place, he made a project that will live on forever. And I mean, actually, Rolling Stone, I think it was the top 10 record of all time for them. I think it was number 8 or 9 on the Rolling Stone greatest records.
Yeah, it's pretty brilliant, you know.
And Teen Spirit won a Grammy, by the way, too.
Yeah, and more Howie, you know. So it's funny how I'm going down this list, because the next one is Blood Sugar Sex Magic, which changed. And I know you worked on Mother's Milk too, but it changed.
Mother's Milk, but yeah, that was another one then. Same thing, same vibe. Rick, you know, a lot of that whole posse, Brendan O'Brien, George Coolius.
And you and I hang with Brendan. Brendan's the best. We love him.
Great. Brendan's one of the greatest engineers on our planet, okay? And you know, the bottom line is, you know, I was in New York at the time, but I heard all these stories that these guys rented a house in Laurel Canyon, which is actually right around the corner from where I am right now.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of the guys thought it was haunted. It wasn't the Houdini mansion. It was right across the street. He had rented it, and I think he ended up buying it. They put a studio in there, and they just lived there. Okay, and I think this is after they kind of cleaned up their act a bit, and they were you know, they were clear-headed, level-headed. They were clear to make a project that was, you know, to really make an earth-shattering record. And a lot of that, you know, the title Blood Sugar, I get, was about sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, Blood Sugar Sex Magic. I mean, that album is one of the greatest records ever. I mean, I love those. I love that album. I mean,
they were just, that was the first record on the first album on this new, on Warner Brothers and the label.
Yeah, off of BMI, right? So that was the deal. Yeah. And then you did, of course, Californication and all that stuff. But
but Rick Rubin, who produced that record, that was his game, right? His game was like nothing, like nobody else's again. You know, at that time, moving from New York to LA, and he had game. And that record, man, that had big game, you know.
Well, you know, it's really interesting how guys like the Chili Peppers and even the next band we're going to talk about, Soundgarden, there's a period where in their songwriting career and performance, they stop being afraid to be emotional. Like, you know, like, and that's the thing, like Under the Bridge, I Could Have Lied, Breaking the Girl.
Oh my God. Under the Bridge was one of the greatest songs ever. And I think there was this whole story behind it, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say, so now, even though for me, I'm going to say this because Super Unknown was, you know, biggest Soundgarden record, and I love all of them, and I love Chris dearly, you know that. But there was a moment, just like the thing where Rick Rubin told Anthony Kiedis that it was all right to show the band the lyrics to Under the Bridge, like don't be like, because you know before that they were like, we're just a party band, you know that shit. Yeah. That record was amazing how it changed everything. But obviously when Chris did Seasons for the Singles soundtrack.
I remember that one.
Yeah, you did. You did that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, all right. So yeah,
I love that record.
And you listen to those demos, and you hear Spoon Man. I don't know. If people know that Chris had everything figured out. Like every change, he was already figured out all the tempo stuff. It wasn't like he brought in this thing about Spoon Man. It was like he literally was so brilliant that he
that record to this day still. I think this or Bad Motorfinger is still they're defining
favorite albums of all time. So and I'm so glad I got to work with them a lot. I want to talk about Bad Motorfinger because
that was it. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
you mastered that record.
That was right after Louder. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're gonna.
I'm gonna. We can just keep cutting each other off, but I'm gonna go. I'm gonna defer to you, Matt, because you got on your.
I love you, Howie. You know what? You and I are like this in the car. We always hang out. Howie, you drive around LA. We're like
everybody else in the car got a headache already, and the two of us are going, yeah, we're cool. Yeah, we're cool.
Exactly. You and I are so funny because good. You bring that East Coast, and we're like, you and I just don't. It's so funny. Like, I'm at the restaurant. How far away am I? 15 minutes. And we're like, we were just like, we hang all the time. And we listen to music. Our love of music has never waned.
Incredible.
Love it. But anyway, so I brought that up, but I will say Bad Motorfinger was such an incredibly groundbreaking record for the band because Ben Shepherd joined the band and it just clicked. Like Ben joined Soundgarden and him and Matt Cameron got in a groove. And that groove worked with Kim Thile, it worked with Chris, and then it was like on, man. And so talk to me about when you mastered Bad Motorfinger, because when I hear
that was a record that Sylvia Massey, she's a woman, produced that record, and
or was it Terry Date? Or was it
Terry Date? She mixed it. I'm sorry, she was one that I don't know if she would produce it. No, Terry Date. That's right, Terry Date had produced that one, and he had done Louder Than Love, the first one, and he was a Seattle guy too, so he was the local guy, and Bad Motorfinger, you put it on, it was like Louder Than Love was a cool, loud, project, but Bad Motorfinger, you put it on, and the first few songs, man, just cut your head off. How unique it was, and how passionate it was, and how new and fresh. These guys from Seattle, who the fuck are these guys? And Chris's vocals were like nothing anybody's heard. This guy was spot on.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite. Obviously,
Chris is
in my life. I was grateful to become his friend and got close to Chris. But man, that guy was my hero even before. I love his voice, and that record, and the idea that what they were doing, and you mastered that. That was one of the loudest records ever, and it was interesting because as a mastering guy, I could actually keep things kind of from clipping, but it was still brilliantly loud. Like I put it on my car to hear outshine, it would go boom, it would punch you in the face. Jesus Christ pose, Rusty Cage. You know what I mean?
That's Terry Date. I mean, he's done all the Pantera records. Terry is one of the great producers of the day, and still is today. And he's a Seattle guy, and he really made that record. That was his sound, and I think they parted ways in the end. But I think with producers, you run your course after a while. Unless you're George Martin, everybody wants to go a different direction. But that direction, that was like, bam, he had done the first record, which was good, and the second record, brilliant. And then that's how it was.
Right now, it's one of my favorite records ever. So, it's like, but I love all of those.
Oh, me too. Especially Rusty. Oh, man, he just put it on.
And you got some Super Unknown too, and Down on the Upside. You did them all, right? So,
great records. Fantastic.
I love them, man. The nicest thing ever was I got the phone call. I did all these radio specials with Chris. I did Euphoria Morning, all the other stuff. But I got the phone call when Soundgarden got back together for King Animal. Yeah. I was like, hey, man, you want to do it again? And it was like 17 years later, I'm doing an album special. That fucking meant so much to me. I love it.
Incredible.
No, hey, all right. So another artist that we love that you've mastered fucking some of their great albums. Siamese Dream, Melancholy, Infinite Sadness. All those records, the Pumpkins. And you know what's amazing? You just worked with Billy again. Like you've been working with Billy.
No, it was the same way. It was a whole happy family. Butch Vig, who produced all the first two Pumpkins records. We worked together on Nirvana and all these other records. It was that, it was that era where there was a handful of guys doing these great records, and I was there at the beginning with the Pumpkins, and those records really changed rock and roll in that day. It really did. And they were hit songs, really well made, great lyrics, great live band. Come on.
Yeah. It's amazing. I was thinking about it. because I love Billy so much, and I know, like, I love going out with Billy and hearing stories about him growing up.
He's an incredible guy.
He's the best. And like, I know you go out. You had lunch a couple times recently. You're working on new stuff, and I haven't heard it yet, but I will. Eventually will. But I will tell you this: I love the fact that you used to be able to have a huge hit that would actually have the lyric in it. Will crucify the insincere tonight. Like today, you could never say that. Like when people weren't afraid to say cool things in songs.
Well, actually, a lot of kids those days would only buy records that had, the stickers, explicit lyrics. I know people would only buy records that had labels, and it was great. It was like, wow, I'll take that one with the crazy lyrics on it.
Yeah, you're so funny. I used to joke with him. He's got that line in that one song, "Fuck Everyone." He goes, "I got Tipper Gore protesting my lyrics. Fuck that bitch. I don't need it." That's the greatest line ever. That's the greatest.
That is funny.
It was really funny.
Hey, that Pumpkins Melancholy record, just to give you a heads up, nobody had done double CDs. Before this one, the CDs came out maybe, and doing a double CD and like, it was unheard of. So Billy came along and decided, I'm going to do a double CD. That means, a 4-sided vinyl, and it became one of the biggest, I think maybe to this day, one of the biggest selling double CDs. I think
it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, man.
Somewhere around in the end, 15 million, something close to that.
Yeah.
But every song on there was, I think every other song on that record was a hit.
It was brilliant. It's such a great record, man. And you got obviously setting it up with the first album and then Siamese Dream. I love those records, man. And I just Billy still, he amazes me because he's still so good, man. He's still got so many great songs, and he's got that fire, which is really, really cool to me. All right, we're about, I thought because we talked about we kind of went through there are so many records that you worked on that. It'd be really funny if one day we actually do an episode where we go through I'll take a camera, we'll go through your way there. But here's the thing I said before. You are never not working. Now, granted, unlike some of the other people in the industry, you don't get a point on a record. You literally, when you master a record, you get a fee. But you love it, and everyone respects you for being able to bring this deep, rich sound on a record.
Well, thank you.
Clear and beautiful, which is like, that's the difference.
Well, but also clear and beautiful, but with a vibe.
Both. Yeah, it's just
with it, and the main thing I try to get out of records are, I'm sorry to, find out what the artist wants. You got to know what the artist wants, and we work with that, And
I've watched you. It's funny. I've watched you master, sat with you. And actually, we should probably bring this up because I haven't mentioned it. You and I were friends with Hal Wilner.
I love Hal.
I loved Hal, man. We lost Hal. Hal died of a COVID-19.
We did a project together. You've heard? Didn't you? He played.
I was with you in the studio and in the car with you and him. Remember? We were like, you and I came over to your house. He was like, Hal was so cool, and Lou's best friend, like Lou Reed,
I think he wanted you to hear it. He was working on this project for over 3 years, and I think I said to him, I said, Matt Pinfield's coming. Goes, oh yeah, I love to play it for Matt, because he always knew that he could get a real honest to goodness vibe out of you. And what I know when you heard it, you were like, wow, you're jaw dropping,
Yeah, because T-Rex is so important to me. Like, I loved Mark Bolan, and which is so wild because I never, obviously. It's so different because Mark Bolan and T-Rex and Lizzie bands like that. I'm just using it. Even though they're very different, they were never really big in America. They might have had one hit, right? Boys Back in Town, Jailbreak with T-Rex. It was Bang a Gong, and then like on commercials, 20th Century Boy.
But how many hits they had how many songs?
Everywhere else, T-Rex, and I loved Mark Bolan, man. So that was so cool when you guys brought me into the studio. And we listened to like Bono doing Bang a Gong with you too, or it was everybody it was so wild.
Kesha, it was crazy.
Ballrooms of Mars, all those great
it was one. This, I think, Now, this hasn't been released yet. The single will be out next month. But this, we all think, is going to be one of the great projects of 2020, easily.
Yeah.
One of the great records when the Grammys show up next year, we'll see.
Yeah, it's amazing. You and me, it's funny how you me and Hal are hanging out. Hal's like, obviously he was the musical director of Saturday Night Live for like, 35, 40 years. But when he said, Matt, no, it's not a compilation. It's a project. It's a collection. Like, he had a really definitive view. And then we're in the car, you and me and him, we're driving, and he started telling us Harry Nilsson stories. It was cool. We're always hanging out.
I'm gonna miss Hal quite a bit.
I love him, man. Him, I love, my old sponsor, Neil Asher. Like, it's crazy times. But here's the great thing. What we're doing right now is we're bringing our love and our positive energy for music.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Even in these crazy times of ours, we know how to do it. We know how to get things done. We know how to work with adversity. We know how to take something negative and make it positive. And that's really what it's all about right now. And the stay home thing. I mean, I have a nice house here, and you do too. And we're doing something different again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just a shout out to.
No, go ahead. I was
a shout out to all these guys making records at home. Man, this year you're gonna see music, and nobody's even heard yet that's been done in these bedrooms in these houses, like the Billy Idol stuff was done last year. It's gonna even surpass that. And the technology is there. I work with a company, Lander, who they do all this algorithm technology. We have basically it's all remote. Everything is worked. You do a record and everything is remote.
I love that with Lander. You got involved with Lander and you're working with them. I thought that was so cool what you guys are doing. You know what I mean?
The technology thing is so moving so fast, and it's more about algorithm stuff. Artificial intelligence is really, it's gonna, in the next few years, because we're going to be at home a lot, and we're gonna be introverted a bit. The artificial intelligence hasn't even scratched the surface. So, and big things are coming on that end. I can't really say yet, but especially in the recording and mastering business, it's crazy. What we can do out of our laptop and our desktop is unbelievable. And it's great seeing you on these shows. Go ahead, Matt.
I just said I watched you do it, man. And you're not sitting there like it's Vampire Weekend record or it's Gary Clark Jr., which
I figured out I've done almost 10,000 records. 10,000. Okay, I have almost 19,000. I can show you. I got the numbers on my computer, and 27 billion streams. And I don't even know what 27 billion is. I think that's what didn't that what Shake Shack got this year?
Yeah, you and I stopped with Shake Shack late.
That was a funny story. Oh shit, we better give it back. They're gonna find out we don't need it. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, Howie, it's amazing. I mean, I gotta tell you how great it is. I mean, I love you as a friend. We hang out. I miss actually us going everywhere, because you and I are always going everywhere. Our crew. And Joey's on tomorrow. Joey Santiago from the Pixies.
We're all three of us. You can see. Look, look. Come on, who's
yeah? Hey, and you look great, and I want to tell you that. And Mark Foster, who we love very much, and he was
Mark's a great guy. We all hang together. We're like the boys, we have dinners together. We're just, this is a great thing.
It is. So, I can't wait till we can actually be together again. But in the meantime, thank God for technology, because we can stay in touch this way.
Well, we're just trying to entertain people. And here's the thing. And we know so many musicians. And right now, since all the big studios, everybody's doing a record at home. And all I can say is, I can't wait for this year to come out. You can hear music you've never heard before.
Yeah. You had, I'm gonna end our interview by saying, you literally, I think, had like 7 number 1 records last year, maybe more, that you worked on. And And I just want to tell you. But listen, thanks for taking the time today, brother.
Well, you know what? Anytime you call me, and I just get on my computer, man, and let's hang. Let's kvetch. Let's hang. We'll get a couple slices, and
dude. Yeah, I miss you, me and Zoli. People don't know
get
Zoli.
a couple of Joe's pizza, and
we go to Joe's because it's close to New York pizza slice.
New York slice and all that stuff. But it's great, man.
Yeah, man. I love you, Howie.
Time we got, guys.
We should thank everybody involved, and we are here.
5 o'clock.
First of all, I need to let everyone know that Carrie Brown, Linda Perry.
Oh, they're the best. They're my bros and broettes.
Aren't they amazing? Yeah, and then Aaron and Steven and Nate and Andre from Proper Platforms, all the people that have been involved in making this show happen. So
how great is this? I mean, all this stuff came out of nothing, this never existed. It existed, but not like it is now where your computer now and your house is really your sanctuary. I mean, it was before, but now it's really, it's and that's where creativity happens.
Yeah, and of course, more than ever, we need that outlet because it's. I mean, Howie, you always worked out of your house, but we would go out everywhere, so you had that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a people person. I got to be honest with you. I am a people person.
Yeah, you are.
It's really, I got antsy.
It's hard. Let me tell you, dude. Howie, there's that day that you and I rode our bicycles in Santa Monica, like 7 towns down. You and I rode bicycles for 4 hours, man. That was the greatest feeling in the world. The freedom, riding by the beach. You and me riding. I miss that.
Still do it right now. We're doing it in mass, but it's that it's that camaraderie and camaraderie, and I think it's back. It's going to be back soon. This is just a how they call it, a blip.
Up in the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
A bump on the road. Okay, so to speak. Woo, okay, we're back.
Well, Howie, I love you, and I know they have another show coming up, but thanks for taking the time. And you were great today. And the stories. How many things you were involved with that are historic?
And I'm easily reachable.
Music history. It just, for me, it means the world to me. And I'm sure everyone watching, and of course, our friendship is one of the most important things too, because we're brothers. So anyway, I'm going to let everybody know tomorrow, one of our other guys we hang out with all the time, Joey Santiago from the Pixies, will be here.
Joey's a man.
Remember that Joey,
and one of the great guitar players of our day, easily one of the most unique guitar players. Put it that way.
Joey inspired the loud, like obviously him and Frank White, but he did it together in the Pixies. But it was Joey with that inspired everything from like Smells Like.
I can't wait to watch.
So great tomorrow. So.
All right. Anyway, I got a session. I got to go.
Yeah, go ahead, brother. And thanks for being here. It's called In a Lonely Place. My name is Matt Pinfield.
Howie Weinberg.
Howie Weinberg for spending the time with us today. We got an incredible week planned. Tomorrow, Joey Santiago of the Pixies will be our guest. And then after that, the next day, Brian Vander Ark from the Verb Pipe, who's a dear friend of mine. We got stories. We'll tell you about us traveling around Michigan. It's really cool stuff. Aaron Bruno, A1 Nation, will be here on Thursday. And a guy who I think is one of the most exciting, incredible young artists out there right now, who I love, who I was lucky enough to become friends with. And I called him up and said, hey, let's do the show. It's Youngblood.
Yeah, I love it.
So it's going to be an incredible week. And then wait till you hear who we have for the next couple of weeks. This show is taking on a life of its own. I'm very, very grateful because I work with great people. And Rick Krim. We need to give Rick Krim a lot of love because besides being one of my best friends, he's been also involved in the booking. Renee Mata, all the guys that are involved. So I'm going to let it go. But hey, Howie, thanks for doing this. Love you, brother.
Peace out, bro.
Got it. In a Lonely Place, Matt Pinfield. Keep the music in your heart. We'll see you tomorrow.